Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Station, watching the morning sun rise over the Pacific Ocean. It was supposed to be a quiet Tuesday in March 2157. He had been planning to review training reports and maybe grab coffee with his team later. Those plans changed in an instant. The first alarm came at 7:23 a.m. Lieutenant Danny Clark rushed to his station, his face white as paper. "Commander Morrison, we have multiple contacts approaching Earth. They're huge, sir. Bigger than anything we've ever seen." Jake moved to the main display screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. Dozens of massive ships were emerging from behind the moon. Each vessel was at least 5 miles long and 2 miles wide. They looked like giant metal spears with sharp edges and glowing blue lights running along their sides. "Where did they come from?" Jake asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Unknown, sir. They just appeared. Our long-range sensors didn't pick up anything until 30 seconds ago." Jake grabbed the communication device. "All stations, this is Morrison. We have unidentified vessels approaching Earth. Battle stations now." Within minutes, every military base on Earth was buzzing with activity. Fighter jets took off from carriers. Missile systems powered up. Satellites turned their cameras toward the approaching fleet. But deep down, Jake knew their weapons would not be enough. The alien ships moved with impossible grace for their size. They glided through space like sharks swimming through water. As they got closer to Earth, they spread out into a perfect formation above the major cities. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing, Los Angeles, and dozens of other cities found themselves in the shadow of the massive vessels. Dr. Lisa Carter was in her lab at the International Space Research Center when the emergency broadcast began. She had been studying radio signals from deep space for over 10 years, always hoping to find proof that life existed beyond Earth. Now she wished she had never found it. "All citizens remain calm," the president's voice came through the speakers. "We are dealing with an unknown situation. Please stay in your homes and await further instructions." Lisa rushed to her computer and began analyzing the signals coming from the alien ships. The data made her hands shake. These vessels were using technology that was hundreds, maybe thousands of years ahead of human science. Their energy output was enough to power entire continents. "Dr. Carter," her assistant, Kevin Murphy, called out, "You need to see this." Lisa hurried to Kevin's station. On his screen was a translation program trying to decode the alien transmissions. Slowly, words began to appear. "Attention, inhabitants of the third planet. We are the Zephyrian Empire. You will cease all resistance and prepare for integration into our civilization." Lisa felt her heart sink. Integration. She had read enough history to know what that word usually meant. High above the Earth, aboard the largest ship, High Commander Vexithai stood in his command center. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. His species had conquered 47 worlds in the past 1,000 years. Each conquest had been swift and simple. Show overwhelming force, demand surrender, relocate the population, put them to work. It was a process that had never failed. "Commander," his aide Zekmor reported, "all ships are in position. The planetary defense systems have been disabled. We are ready to begin the standard procedure." Vexthai nodded. "Excellent. Begin the broadcast." Every television, radio, and communication device on Earth suddenly displayed the same image. A tall alien figure appeared on screen, speaking in perfect English, though his voice sounded mechanical. "People of Earth, I am High Commander Vexithai of the Zephyrian Empire. Your planet has been selected for integration into our galactic civilization. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact." President Maria Rodriguez was in the Situation Room beneath the White House, surrounded by military leaders and advisors. General Pete Davis, the head of global defense, was pacing back and forth like a caged animal. "We have to fight," Davis said. "We can't just give up without trying." "With what?" Rodriguez replied. "Our most powerful weapons are like slingshots compared to their technology. Look at the reports. They disabled every satellite in orbit within 2 hours. Every single one." On the screen, the alien commander continued his message. "You have 48 Earth hours to cease all military activities and prepare for relocation. Your species will be moved to designated areas where you will contribute to the prosperity of the Empire. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your planet. The transmission ended, leaving Earth in stunned silence. Jake Morrison received new orders within the hour. All military forces were to stand down and await further instructions. It felt wrong, like giving up before the fight even started. But he had seen the power readings from the alien ships. Humanity's entire nuclear arsenal would barely scratch the paint on one of those vessels. Dr. Lisa Carter worked through the night, analyzing every piece of data she could find about the aliens. What she discovered worried her more than their advanced weapons. The Zephyrians had left traces of their previous conquests in their transmissions. 47 other worlds had fallen to them. Not one had ever fought back successfully. Kevin, she called to her assistant, look at this data. Every species they conquered gave up after the first show of force. Not one of them continued fighting. Kevin studied the information. Maybe they were smart. Maybe they knew when they were beaten. Or maybe, Lisa said quietly, they just didn't have what it takes to keep fighting when everything seemed hopeless. As dawn broke over Earth on the second day, the alien ships remained in position like giant storm clouds. The ultimatum was clear, surrender or die. But something stirred in the hearts of many humans that the Zephyrians had not expected. It was not fear or despair, but anger. Jake Morrison stood at his window, looking up at the alien ship hovering over his city. 48 hours, he whispered to himself. We'll see about that. The 48 hours passed like a nightmare. President Maria Rodriguez stood in the White House Rose Garden, knowing that millions of people around the world were watching her. The alien ship still hung in the sky like dark clouds waiting for her answer. Citizens of Earth, she began, her voice steady despite the fear in her heart. After careful consideration, we have decided to accept the terms offered by the Zephyrian Empire. We choose to preserve human life rather than engage in a war we cannot win. The words tasted like poison in her mouth, but she knew they needed time. Time to plan, time to prepare, time to find a way to fight back. High Commander Vexithai watched the broadcast from his command ship. Another easy victory. In his 1,000 years of life, he had seen this same scene 47 times before. The pattern never changed. Show overwhelming force, offer terms, accept surrender, begin relocation. Simple and efficient. Commander, his aide Zekmore reported, the human leadership has agreed to meet with our representatives tomorrow. They request the meeting take place at their United Nations building in New York. Vexthai made a sound that might have been laughter. Of course they do. They still think this is a negotiation. Send 3 ships to the meeting site. Deploy standard surrender protocols. Captain Ben Foster received his secret orders that same evening. While the president spoke of surrender on UN television, General Davis pulled together a small team of elite soldiers for a different mission. Ben was chosen to lead them. Your job is simple, Davis explained in the underground bunker. Get close to their ships, study their technology, find weaknesses. We're not giving up, but we need to be smart about this. Ben looked at his team of 12 soldiers. They were the best of the best, trained for impossible missions. But this felt different. This felt like the future of humanity depended on them. Sir, Sergeant Amy Cole asked, what if we get caught? Then we never existed, Davis replied. This mission is completely secret. If anyone asks, you're all on leave. The next morning, 3 smaller alien ships landed in Central Park, just blocks from the United Nations building. Each ship was still massive by human standards, about the size of a football stadium. They settled on the grass like giant metal insects, their blue lights pulsing slowly. Dr. Lisa Carter was part of the official human delegation, chosen for her knowledge of alien communications. As she walked toward the ships with President Rodriguez and other world leaders, her legs felt like rubber. Up close, the alien technology was even more impressive and terrifying. The entrance to the ship opened without a sound. A ramp extended to the ground, and 3 tall figures walked down. They moved with fluid grace, their forearms swaying at their sides. Their pale blue skin seemed to glow in the morning light. "I am Subcommander Yorlan," the first alien said, its voice coming from a translation device around its neck. "We will discuss the terms of your integration." President Rodriguez stepped forward. "We appreciate your willingness to meet with us. We hope we can find terms that work for both our peoples." The alien's large black eyes stared at her without emotion. "There are no negotiations. We will explain what will happen. You will accept." The meeting took place inside the alien ship. Dr. Carter tried to memorize everything she saw. The walls seemed to be made of a material that shifted between metal and glass. Symbols floated in the air like holograms. Everything hummed with quiet energy. "Your species will be relocated to designated zones," Subcommander Yorlan explained. "Adults will work in mining operations on various worlds. Children will be educated in Empire methods. Your technology will be absorbed into our systems." "What about our culture?" asked the representative from China. "Our history, our art, our music?" "Irrelevant," the alien replied. "Such things interfere with productivity. They will be eliminated." Dr. Carter felt sick. This wasn't integration. This was complete destruction of everything that made humanity human. While the meeting continued, Captain Ben Foster and his team were already at work. They had approached the alien ships from underground, using the old subway tunnels. The aliens had not bothered to secure the area below their ships. They never expected anyone to try anything after surrender. "Look at this," whispered Sergeant Cole, studying the bottom of one ship through night vision goggles. "Those panels look like access points." Ben nodded. "Get closer. We need to understand how these things work." What they found surprised them. The alien ships were incredibly advanced, but they were also heavily automated. Few actual aliens seemed to be aboard. Most of the ship's functions were controlled by computers. "They're not warriors," Ben realized. "They're administrators. They've been doing this so long they don't expect real fights anymore." Dr. Amy Johnson, a quantum physicist, had been working in her laboratory non-stop since the aliens arrived. She had been studying the energy signatures from their ships, looking for any weakness she could find. What she discovered gave her the first hope she had felt in days. "The shield frequency," she muttered to herself, staring at the data on her computer. "It's consistent across all their ships. If I could generate the right electromagnetic pulse..." She began sketching designs for a weapon that just might be able to disrupt the alien shields. It would take time to build, and she would need resources that were hard to get. But it was possible. Back at the United Nations, the meeting was ending. Subcommander Yorlan stood up, towering over the human delegates. "Relocation will begin in 7 days, the alien announced. "Prepare your populations. Resistance will not be tolerated." President Rodriguez nodded, but her eyes were cold. "We understand." As the human delegation left the ship, Dr. Carter noticed something important. The aliens moved slowly and carefully. They seemed uncomfortable in Earth's gravity. Their technology might be superior, but their bodies were not adapted for fighting in different environments. That evening, secret messages went out to military leaders around the world. The surrender was a lie. The real war was about to begin. Captain Foster sent his report to General Davis. "They're overconfident and undermanned. They rely entirely on their technology. If we can find a way to disrupt their systems, we might have a chance." Dr. Johnson received funding and equipment through secret channels. She began building her electromagnetic pulse device in an abandoned warehouse outside the city. Dr. Carter started working on something even more dangerous. Using the alien communication protocols she had observed, she began developing a computer virus designed to attack their ship systems. The aliens thought they had won. They had no idea that humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or their technology. It was their refusal to stay defeated, even when defeat seemed certain. High Commander Vextai received the reports from the surface and felt satisfied. Another world would soon join the Empire. In 7 days, the humans would begin their new lives as workers and slaves. He had no way of knowing that in 7 days, everything would change. 7 days after the surrender, the alien ships began landing in major cities around the world. They were smaller than the command vessels, but still huge by human standards. Each one could hold thousands of people. The Zephyrians called them transport ships, but to the humans watching, they looked like prison ships. Colonel Steve Parker stood hidden in the ruins of an old factory outside Detroit, watching through binoculars as aliens herded people onto the ships. Men, women, and children walked up the ramps with their heads down, carrying small bags with their few allowed possessions. "This is wrong," whispered Sergeant Tommy Lee, who was lying next to him. "We should be down there fighting." "We will be," Steve replied, "but not yet. We stick to the plan." The plan had been forming for weeks in secret. While President Rodriguez spoke publicly about cooperation with the aliens, military leaders around the world had been organizing resistance cells. Steve was in charge of the North American group. Similar teams were forming in Europe, Asia, and South America. Dr. Amy Johnson worked day and night in her hidden laboratory. She had managed to build a prototype of her electromagnetic pulse weapon, but testing it was dangerous. If the aliens detected the energy signature, they would find her workshop and probably kill her. Just a small test, she told herself, adjusting the controls on her device. Something they won't notice. She aimed the weapon at an old radio and fired. The pulse was invisible, but the radio sparked and died instantly. Amy smiled for the first time in weeks. It worked. Now she needed to build bigger versions and find a way to get them close to the alien ships. In New York, Dr. Lisa Carter was having her own breakthrough. She had been studying the alien computer systems from the data she collected during the meeting at the United Nations. The Zephyrians used incredibly advanced technology, but they had made one crucial mistake. They assumed no primitive species could understand their computer language. "Kevin," she called to her assistant, "look at this code structure. It's actually simpler than I expected. They use basic command protocols because they never thought anyone would try to hack their systems." Kevin studied the data on her screen. "So you think you can create a virus?" "More than that," Lisa said, her eyes bright with excitement. "I think I can create a virus that will spread through their entire network. If we can get it into one ship, it might reach all of them." The first major resistance operation happened 3 weeks after the relocations began. Colonel Parker had identified a pattern in the alien supply runs. Every few days, small ships would fly between the main vessels and the transport ships carrying food and equipment. "They're creatures of habit," Steve explained to his team of 20 soldiers. "They use the same routes, same timing, every time. They don't expect attacks because no other species has ever fought back after surrender." The ambush took place in a valley outside Phoenix. Parker's team had set up hidden positions on both sides of the canyon that the alien supply ship always flew through. When the ship appeared, flying low and slow, they were ready. "Now," Steve whispered into his radio. 20 rocket launchers fired at once. The alien ship's shields flared bright blue as the missiles struck, but the shields held. The ship didn't even slow down. "Damn," muttered Sergeant Lee. "Their defenses are too strong." But Steve was smiling. "Look closer." The alien ship was continuing on its route, but it was sending out scanning beams, searching for the attackers. More importantly, it was sending a signal back to the main ships, reporting the attack. "We're not trying to destroy them yet," Steve explained. "We're trying to make them nervous, make them waste resources, make them change their patterns." Attack worked better than expected. Within hours, alien patrol ships were flying over every major city, scanning for weapons and resistance fighters. They pulled soldiers away from the relocation camps to search for threats that might not even exist. High Commander Vexithai was confused and angry. In 1,000 years of conquest, no species had ever continued fighting after formal surrender. It made no sense. "Sub-Commander Yorlan," he called to his aide, "explain to me how these humans are still causing problems." "It appears to be small groups acting independently," Yorlan replied, studying the reports. "Perhaps 20 or 30 individuals total, across the entire planet, nothing that threatens our operations." "Then why are they doing it?" Vexthai demanded. What do they hope to accomplish? Yorlan had no answer. In the Zephyrian Empire, logical beings accepted defeat when defeat was obvious. These humans seemed to lack basic reasoning ability. The resistance grew stronger each week. Colonel Parker's successful attack inspired other groups around the world. They began hitting alien supply lines, communication towers, and patrol routes. Each attack was small, but together they forced the aliens to spread their forces thin. Engineer Kate Williams had been working on a different approach. Instead of building weapons, she was studying the alien communication network. What she discovered was both encouraging and terrifying. The whole system is connected, she explained to Dr. Johnson during one of their secret meetings. Every ship, every base, every piece of equipment talks to every other piece. It makes them incredibly efficient, but it also makes them vulnerable. Vulnerable? How? Amy asked. If we could disrupt the central network, we could blind their entire operation at once. They'd lose communication, navigation, even basic ship functions. Amy looked at her electromagnetic pulse weapon prototype. How much power would we need? More than we have, Kate admitted. But if we could combine your EMP technology with Dr. Carter's computer virus, we might be able to create a cascade failure throughout their entire system. The breakthrough came when Captain Ben Foster's reconnaissance team captured an alien communication device during a raid on a small outpost. The aliens had become careless, leaving only automated defenses at remote locations. Look at this thing, Ben said, studying the captured device. It's like a key to their entire network. Dr. Carter examined the device and nearly shouted with joy. This is perfect. With this, I can upload my virus directly into their central system. We won't need to guess about their protocols anymore. But using the device would be incredibly dangerous. They would need to get close enough to a major alien ship to establish a connection. That meant someone would have to infiltrate one of the main vessels, upload the virus, and escape before the aliens realized what was happening. I'll do it, Ben volunteered immediately. No, Steve Parker said. This is bigger than any one person. We all do it together. The plan began to take shape. Dr. Johnson would build a powerful EMP weapon. Dr. Carter would prepare her computer virus. Engineer Williams would map the alien network vulnerabilities. And Colonel Parker would coordinate a global attack using every resistance cell on Earth. They had one advantage the aliens couldn't understand. Every human who had been taken to the relocation camps, every family separated, every friend lost, had created more people willing to fight. The aliens thought they were breaking human spirit, but they were actually forging it into something stronger. High Commander Vexthai received reports of increasing resistance activity, but dismissed them as the desperate actions of a defeated species. He had no idea that across the globe, humans were preparing for the largest coordinated attack in their planet's history. Increase security at all installations, he ordered. These primitive disruptions will end soon enough. But in hidden laboratories and secret meeting places, the humans were no longer primitive. They were learning, adapting, and preparing to show the Zephyrian Empire something they had never encountered before. A species that refused to accept defeat, no matter how impossible victory seemed. 6 months after the invasion began, the resistance had grown from a few scattered groups to a worldwide network of fighters. What started with Colonel Steve Parker's small team in Detroit had spread to every continent on Earth. The aliens found themselves dealing with attacks they never expected and problems they couldn't solve. Dr. Amy Johnson finished building her most powerful electromagnetic pulse weapon in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath London. The device was as big as a car and required enormous amounts of power, but her test showed it could disable alien shields from over a mile away. This should work, she told Kate Williams, who had traveled from America to help with the final preparations. But we'll only get one shot. After we fire this thing, every alien on the planet will know where we are. Kate nodded as she checked the connections to the stolen alien communication device. Dr. Carter's virus is ready too. The moment your EMP hits their shields, I'll upload the virus through their communication network. If everything works, their entire system should crash. In New York, Dr. Lisa Carter was putting the finishing touches on her computer virus. She had named it Freedom because that's what it would hopefully bring to Earth and every other world the aliens had conquered. The virus is designed to spread through their network like wildfire, she explained to Captain Ben Foster, who would be leading the team to get close enough to upload it. Once it's in their system, it will corrupt their navigation, disable their weapons, and shut down their life support systems. Ben studied the mission plan one more time. My team will need to get within 50 feet of their main command ship. That means getting past their patrols, their sensors, and their automated defenses. We've been watching their patterns for months, Lisa replied. They rotate their guard shifts every 6 hours. There's a 12-minute window when the new guards are getting into position. That's when you'll have your chance. Around the world, resistance cells were preparing for what they called Liberation Day. The plan was simple but incredibly dangerous. Every group would attack at the same time, forcing the aliens to split their attention. While the aliens were dealing with dozens of small attacks, the main teams would strike at the command ships with the EMP weapons and computer virus. High Commander Vexthai was becoming increasingly frustrated with the situation on Earth. What should have been a simple relocation operation had turned into a constant source of problems. His ships were being attacked daily. His supply lines were disrupted. His soldiers were exhausted from chasing human fighters who seemed to appear and disappear like ghosts. Sub-Commander Yorlan, he called to his aide. How many ships have we had to bring from other worlds to deal with these human problems? 17 additional vessels, Commander, Yorlan replied, checking his reports. We've also had to request extra soldiers from the home fleet. Vexthai's forearms gestured angrily. 17 ships to deal with primitive rebels? This is unacceptable. What are our intelligence reports saying? The humans appear to be coordinating their attacks, Commander. They have some form of communication network that we haven't been able to locate. Each attack supports the others, drawing our forces away from important targets. What the aliens didn't know was that the human communication network was incredibly simple. They used old methods the aliens never thought to monitor. Coded messages in radio broadcasts, signals made with mirrors reflecting sunlight, and even messages passed by hand from person to person. The Resistance had also learned something important about their enemy. The aliens were not natural fighters. They had conquered dozens of worlds, but always through overwhelming technological superiority and immediate surrender. They had never faced an enemy that kept fighting after losing the first battle. Captain Foster's reconnaissance teams had discovered that most alien soldiers were actually technicians and administrators. They knew how to operate their advanced equipment, but they had no experience with guerrilla warfare or prolonged conflict. They're scared, Foster reported to Colonel Parker during one of their secret meetings. I can see it in how they move, how they react to our attacks. They've never faced anything like this before. The first major breakthrough came when a resistance cell in Tokyo successfully captured an alien patrol ship. The ship had been damaged in an attack and forced to land for repairs. Before reinforcements could arrive, Japanese fighters led by Captain Yuki Tanaka overwhelmed the small crew. We have one of their ships, Tanaka reported through the secret communication network. It's damaged, but our engineers are studying it. We're learning things about their technology that could help everyone. The captured ship revealed several important weaknesses. The aliens relied heavily on automated systems that could be confused by unexpected tactics. Their weapons were incredibly powerful, but took time to charge between shots. Most importantly, their ships were designed for space combat, not for fighting in a planet's atmosphere against small, fast-moving targets. Dr. Johnson used this information to improve her EMP weapons. If we can hit them while their weapons are charging, they'll be completely defenseless for almost 30 seconds, she explained to the other resistance leaders. The aliens tried to respond to the growing resistance by bringing in more ships and soldiers, but this created a new problem. They were pulling resources away from other conquered worlds to deal with Earth. For the first time in the Empire's history, they were having to weaken their control over established territories. This didn't go unnoticed. On a mining world called Kepler 442b, a species called the Varani had been enslaved by the Zephyrians for over 200 years. When they learned about the human resistance through intercepted alien communications, Something awakened in their hearts that had been sleeping for generations. "The humans fight back even when they cannot win," said Elder Varani leader Kethara to his people. "Perhaps we have forgotten what it means to be free." Similar stirrings began on other worlds. The alien empire had been built on the assumption that conquered species would stay conquered. The idea that intelligent beings would continue fighting hopeless battles was completely foreign to Zephyrian thinking. High Commander Vexthai received the most disturbing news yet, when reports came in of unrest on 3 different worlds. Nothing serious yet, just protests and minor acts of sabotage. But it was happening, and it had never happened before. "Commander," Yorlan reported nervously, "the High Council is asking questions about our operations on Earth. They want to know why we need so many resources to control one primitive world." Vexthai felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career. Doubt. "Tell the Council that the situation is under control. We will end this human resistance within 1 rotation period." But privately, he wasn't sure how to keep that promise. Every time they crushed 1 resistance cell, 2 more seemed to appear. Every alien patrol they sent out faced attacks. Every supply convoy needed heavy escort. It was like fighting smoke. Back on Earth, the final preparations for Liberation Day were complete. Dr. Johnson's EMP weapons were in position around the world. Dr. Carter's virus was ready for upload. Captain Foster's infiltration teams were prepared to get close to the alien command ships. Colonel Parker had coordinated with resistance cells on every continent. "Tomorrow, we find out if humans can do the impossible," Parker said to his assembled team. "We find out if a species can fight its way back from total defeat." None of them knew that their fight was already inspiring others across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire, which had seemed unshakable for thousands of years, was beginning to crack. And it all started with humanity's simple refusal to accept that defeat had to be permanent. The aliens had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed that intelligence and logic would always lead to surrender when faced with superior force. They never considered that some species might value freedom more than survival, and that the human spirit, once fully awakened, might be the most dangerous force in the galaxy. Liberation Day began at exactly midnight, Greenwich Mean Time. Across the globe, resistance cells launched coordinated attacks on alien positions. Explosions lit up the night sky in dozens of cities as human fighters struck at supply depots, communication towers, and patrol bases. Colonel Steve Parker stood on a rooftop in Detroit, watching the alien command ship through binoculars. Below him, his team was in position with Dr. Johnson's most powerful EMP weapon. Similar scenes were playing out in New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, and 15 other cities around the world. "All teams report ready," came the voice through his earpiece. It was Captain Ben Foster who was leading the most dangerous part of the mission. His team was already inside the alien perimeter, carrying Dr. Carter's virus toward the main command ship. "Remember," Parker spoke into his radio, "we hit them all at once. If even one team fails, the whole operation could collapse." "High Commander." Vexthai was jolted awake by emergency alarms throughout his ship. He rushed to the command center where chaos greeted him. Every screen showed reports of attacks happening simultaneously across the planet. "What is happening?" he demanded. Sub-Commander Yorlan's 4 hands moved rapidly over his control panels. "Coordinated strikes on 67 different targets, Commander. They're hitting us everywhere at once." Vexthai felt his confidence cracking. "How many humans are involved in this?" "Our estimates suggest several thousand fighters, Commander. Far more than we believed existed." Captain Foster and his team of 6 soldiers crawled through a drainage pipe that ran beneath the alien command ship. They had studied the ship's layout for months, finding this one blind spot in the alien sensors. The pipe was narrow and filled with freezing water, but it was their only way to get close enough to upload the virus. 50 more meters, whispered Sergeant Amy Cole, who was carrying the communication device they had stolen from the aliens. Behind them, explosions echoed through the city as other resistance teams attacked alien positions. The noise would help cover their approach, but it also meant they were running out of time. Dr. Amy Johnson made final adjustments to her EMP weapon in the London subway tunnel. The device hummed with barely contained energy, powerful enough to disable the shields on the massive alien ship hovering above the city. "Kate," she called to Williams, "are you ready with the network connection?" Kate held up the modified alien communication device. "The moment their shields go down, I'll establish contact with their central computer. Dr. Carter's virus will upload automatically." In New York, Dr. Lisa Carter watched from a hidden position as explosions flashed around the alien ship above. Manhattan. Her virus was loaded into communication devices around the world, waiting for the moment when the alien network would be vulnerable. "This has to work," she whispered to herself. "If it doesn't, we'll never get another chance like this." The first EMP strike came from Sydney, Australia. Dr. Johnson's colleague there fired his weapon at the alien ship hovering over the harbor. The electromagnetic pulse was invisible to the naked eye, but its effect was immediate and spectacular. The alien ship's blue shields flickered and died. For 30 seconds, the massive vessel was completely defenseless. In that brief window, the Australian team uploaded the virus into the ship's communication system. "Sydney successful," came the report through the Global Resistance Network. "Virus uploaded." Around the world, resistance leaders heard the message and prepared their own attacks. In London, Dr. Johnson fired her EMP weapon. The blast was so powerful that streetlights went dark for miles around, but the alien ship's shields collapsed completely. Kate Williams immediately connected to the ship's network and watched as Dr. Carter's virus began spreading through the alien computer systems like digital wildfire. "London successful," she reported. "The virus is in their network." High Commander Vexthai watched in horror as his ship's systems began failing one by one. Warning lights flashed red throughout the command center. Computer screens went dark. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated, making everyone stumble. "What is happening to our systems?" he shouted at his technicians. "Unknown, Commander," Yorlan replied, his voice filled with panic. "It appears to be some form of computer attack. The virus is spreading through our entire network." One by one, EMP strikes hit alien ships around the globe: Tokyo, Moscow, Berlin, Cairo, Mexico City. Each successful attack allowed resistance teams to upload the virus into more alien systems. What had started as isolated computer infections quickly became a plague that spread through the entire Zephyrian fleet. Captain Foster's team reached their target just as the virus began affecting the command ship's security systems. Electronic locks failed throughout the vessel. Automated defenses shut down. The team moved quickly through corridors that should have been impossible to enter. "We're in," Foster reported, moving to the central computer core. The virus was working better than Dr. Carter had dared to hope. It didn't just disable alien systems, it learned from them. Each ship it infected gave the virus more knowledge about Zephyrian technology. The virus evolved and adapted, becoming more effective with each system it corrupted. Alien ships began falling from the sky, not crashing violently, but settling to the ground as their flight systems failed. Others drifted helplessly in space as their navigation computers died. Across the galaxy, Zephyrian vessels suddenly found themselves blind, deaf, and powerless. On the mining world Kepler 442b, the Varani people watched in amazement as their alien overseer's equipment began shutting down. Elder Kithara stood before his people and spoke words that hadn't been heard for 2 centuries. "We are free." Similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. Species that had been enslaved for generations suddenly found their alien masters helpless. The Zephyrian Empire, built over thousands of years, was collapsing in a matter of hours. High Commander Vexthai realized his situation was hopeless when Captain Foster's team burst into his command center. The human soldiers, armed with captured alien weapons, faced the most powerful military leader in the galaxy. "Surrender," Foster commanded. Vexthai looked around his ruined command center. His ship was powerless. His fleet was scattered and disabled. His empire was in revolt. For the first time in his long life, he understood what defeat truly meant. "I surrender," he said quietly. Captain Foster activated his communicator and sent a message that was heard around the world and across the galaxy. "This is Captain Ben Foster of the Earth Resistance. The alien invasion fleet has been defeated. Earth is free." The celebration began immediately. In every human city, people poured into the streets cheering and crying with joy. They had done something that seemed impossible. They had fought back against an overwhelming enemy and won. But the victory was bigger than just Earth. Dr. Carter's virus had been designed to broadcast a message along with its computer code. Across the galaxy, on every world where the Zephyrian network reached, enslaved species received the same message. This is the human resistance. We have defeated the Zephyrian Empire. You are free to fight back. You are free to choose your own destiny. The message included detailed plans for building EMP weapons, creating computer viruses, and organizing resistance movements. Everything humanity had learned about fighting the aliens was shared freely with every species in the galaxy. Colonel Parker stood on his rooftop in Detroit, watching the alien command ship settling slowly to the ground. Its lights were dark, its weapons silent, its crew defeated. "We did it," he said into his radio. "We actually did it." The Zephyrian Empire, which had seemed invincible for millennia, was finished. It had been destroyed not by superior technology or overwhelming force, but by something the aliens had never encountered and could never understand: the refusal to accept defeat. Humanity had shown the galaxy that freedom was worth fighting for, no matter how impossible the odds. They had proven that even the smallest spark of resistance could grow into a fire that would burn down the mightiest empire. The age of Zephyrian dominance was over. The age of galactic freedom had begun. And it all started because one species refused to believe that surrender was the only logical choice when facing a superior enemy. Earth had saved not just itself, but every enslaved world in the galaxy. The aliens who had tried to enslave humanity had indeed triggered their own downfall.